David in Brighton asking, do you remember clickety-clack blocks from Bernard's Magic Shop? Not quite in the same league as Coca-Cola yo-yos, but great fun. I remember the clickety-clack blocks. Whether I got them there or at the show, I'm not sure. Bernard's Magic Shop was once owned by Tim Ellis, who's a magician and former owner of that little nugget, that little jewel. Tim, good afternoon.
Hello.
When were you owner, and what do you remember about all the people who came to buy things?
Okay, so I was the owner of Bernard's Magic Shop from 1992 to 97 with my wife at the time. So Gerald Taylor, who owned it previous to me, he owned it from 1986. He'd just turned 65 years old and was going to hand the shop over to somebody else to continue the tradition. And that's how we ended up getting the shop. And sadly, Gerald has just recently passed away at the age of 94. So he continued on, as a magical icon himself, and outlasted the shop.
What was it like inside the shop?
Inside the shop was amazing. When we took it over, we decided to give it a bit of a spruce up, but at the same time take it back to the vintage sort of look, and I room of tricks that they didn't sell anymore, tricks that were in the old original catalogues from the 30s and 40s. So obviously people had been assembling the tricks with all the gear and then just left whatever was left in the boxes, and they'd been stuck at the back of the storage. So we started to resurrect some of those old tricks, things like, the butter knife through a card and all these strange tricks that had been in the original catalogues from 1937 but hadn't been out since then.
Did it open before the Second World War?
Or 1937. That's when it opened. The actual building was constructed in 1923, and the original owners were Lionel Aarons and Bill Johns, and they named the shop after their very lucky friend Bernard. But then they sold it the next year, and Alf Gertler took over, and he was the original Bernard, in a way, because he took on the name Bernard the Magician and was on the Tarak show with Happy Hammond and Ron Blaskett, and he was sort of the iconic character who people most remember.
There was a magician called, and it's Bernard, not Bernard?
We call it Bernard.
Okay. And there was a magician. I didn't realise there was a magician Bernard on TV.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, he was in the Tarak show. He was one of the regular characters. He did lots and lots of TV and lots of live shows and everything. And there's actually an article from 1947 in the Sydney Sun Herald. I just had a look at this, where they were chatting with Alf Gertler and Andy Flanagan, who also, they call them the two retired magicians who run the store, headed "Rabbits' top hats are out in the new boom of magic." I thought it was hilarious how even back in 1947 people were going, no more rabbits and top hats, no more rabbits and top hats. We're modern magicians now. And we still have that argument going on. We're still arguing about rabbits and top hats.
Oh, that's just delightful. How many people do you think learned a trick when they went to buy one at that shop?
Everyone learned the tricks, because Bernard's was one of those unique places where we'd actually teach you. So when you came in to buy the trick, it wasn't like you just buy it mail order and then you got to figure out how to do it. You'd buy the trick and then the person behind the counter would actually show you how to do the trick. And we had a sort of an unofficial policy that you start at one end of the counter where all the easy tricks were. And then when you came back, we'd say, well, can you show me the trick that you bought last time? We want to make sure you've mastered it, and then you move on through the progress. And that way, you're sort of it's not the best business model, but it's the best model to mentor a new generation of magicians.
Right. I get the sense no one ever really made a ton of money in that place.
Well, one of the goals that I had when we took over was to try and really increase the overall business of it, which somehow I managed to do. But it was also at the suffering of my live performances. So as I saw the income for the shop start to go really high, I also noticed that my live performances had to drop dramatically because I didn't have the time to do them anymore. So it was that delicate balancing act that was very hard to do. But it's such an iconic place in Melbourne, such a unique experience to step inside the shop. You're stepping into another world. And so the landlords were very much in favour and supporting the shop, and we'd always have these discussions. They're like, we've got to put the rent up. We go, oh, please don't put the rent up, and they wouldn't. And then apparently after I'd left, this would be in, let me think, it would have been about 2007 or something, the building was sold and a new landlord raised the rent by 70%.
Of course.
So they bought the building for over $7 million, and then they ended up moving to 187 Elizabeth Street upstairs, where McGill's bookshop used to be.
Oh, yes.
So they were there from 2015 for
I've
about
got to
a year
go.
or so. No.
Are they
Yeah, then-
gone? Is it over now? Bernard's Magic Shop's over,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. They
okay.
then went to West Melbourne for a year, and they closed in 2017.
Tim, I've got to go because the news is upon us, but thank you so much for that. Tim Ellis, you can hear there, a magician himself, former owner of Bernard's Magic Shop. There was a Bernard the Magician. What do you remember your unofficial history of that delightful magic shop?